here has heard about MegaBots? Who here remembers last summer when the great nation of the United States challenged the sovereign nation of Japan to the world's first giant fighting robot duel? So I'm a co-founder of MegaBots, and if you remember that, that would be us that did that. And so I'm here today to talk, of course, about robots. And what's so fascinating about robots, in my opinion, is that for some reason throughout science fiction history, people have been dreaming and creating new forms of robots. And these are all robots pulled from, various science fiction stories. And the power of stories to actually create the future is something that I want you to sort of keep in mind as I tell you about the journey that we've been on with MegaBots. So something else that's very exciting is we're on TechCrunch this morning. And so we can officially announce that as of today, we are a venture-backed company. We've actually convinced investors to give us millions of dollars to create an international fighting robot sports league. So please give a round of applause for that, because that's a crazy idea. And we have awesome investors, including the founder of Starbucks, the founder of Yahoo, and some other awesome people. So, what am I doing with my life? I am living the dream. We've heard a lot about Silicon Valley and being at an intersection and maybe seeing a self-driving car. I remember when that first happened to me and I looked over, there was no one in the seat. And I remember thinking, like, this is crazy. But you know what's even cooler than being in Silicon Valley and seeing a random self-driving car? It's seeing a giant robot on the streets of Oakland. And so this is the Mark II. This is a robot that is 12,000 pounds. It was completely built from the ground up by the two robot geniuses that you see standing next to that handsome fellow on the treads. So that's Guy Cavalcanti, our CEO, and Matt Orline. So Guy was a former systems lead and integrator with Boston Dynamics. MegaBots is actually founded in Boston. And so we are a Boston company, and so it's awesome to be back and celebrating the good old United States of America. These are some clips.
It's like something out of a movie.
A dozen movie and TV robot fantasies are about to become reality.
Imagine Transformers battles coming to life.
One U.S. company is challenging a Japanese company to an unusual competition.
MegaBots.
American robot company MegaBots
challenged a Japanese firm to a duel of giant robots. Japan said, bring it on.
Let's get it on!
What's more American than a giant robot?
So even the camera guy getting a piece of the action. And so, needless to say, about this time last year, we captured the world's imagination with this big challenge. We were the #1 trending story on Facebook globally. We were #1 on Reddit globally. We had about 4,000 unique news articles written about us in every single major language on the planet, including 1 billion people. Most of which were in China, which we found interesting because they're not able to watch YouTube videos. And so what are we doing? We are bringing the science fiction of our youth to reality. We are making science fiction real. And if you look at the science fiction franchises that are the most popular in history, it's kind of like this trope that there is some kind of giant robot that at some point a human straps inside and goes off to battle or goes off to do something productive or unproductive or whatever it is. There's these giant robots that are battling each other in science fiction. And so, why don't they exist yet? And this is one of the main reasons that the company was founded, that MegaBots was founded. So Guy, as I mentioned, robot genius, sitting at Boston Dynamics, working at a very advanced company, building super advanced robots for the military and emergency preparedness, et cetera, and was still reading science fiction novels on the lunch break. And so there was still this fascination of, like, even having sort of reached this pinnacle career, there's still something that was, left to be desired. And so we decided to make it real. We challenged Japan. Big reason that we did that is that we sort of met with a lot of people in Hollywood who came calling, and they were telling us, like, oh, you need to sign this attachment agreement, give us all of your rights, give us all of your money and everything that's going to come from this, and then we'll put you on TV and make you, super popular and make this thing a reality. And so we were like, well, we don't like the sharks in Hollywood, and so what can we do to sort of make our own Hollywood? And that's why we challenged Japan. We sort of set it up with them behind the scenes. We realized that the group in Japan were basically just like us, sort of like 3 dudes in a garage. So we kind of geeked out with a translator over Skype. And we're like, I don't know if they realize how crazy our challenge video is going to be. Like, we're going to wear American flag capes. You understand this, right? And they're like, yeah. So they liked it. They accepted the Duel. And the Duel is going to happen probably either later this year or in the beginning of next year. No date set, no location set. But as we sort of described today in the TechCrunch article, it's much bigger than a single fight. We literally did this as a way to sort of hype up and promote the sport. And so this is where we're going. We're going to robot on robot, country on country, company on company, in the future college on college, in giant humanoid robots battling each other. So we're shooting giant sort of cannonball-sized paintballs, and then there's also going to be melee combat. The reason that we use paintballs is because when you're inside the robot, the only way to see out is through cameras. And so if you're able to sort of take out the cameras on the opposing team's robot, then obviously you get a strategic advantage. And so we're like this super awesome combination between science fiction franchises and sports. And 2 things that I really love, right? And I feel like it's been one of the major drivers throughout history. And if you sort of look at sports, the way I sort of sum up sports is that a sport is a storytelling machine. It's not a single story. It's literally something that produces hero after hero after hero, legacies after legacies, and so it just keeps going. I mean, think of the Olympics, right? You can be watching the Olympics, and even though you don't really care about Croatia, you've never been to Croatia, the United States is out of the final championship, and it's Croatia versus somebody else, and you look into the eyes of the competitor, and you start feeling some sense of empathy for Croatia. Why? It's because all sports, it's never about direct competition. It's actually a competition with ourselves. It's all about self-mastery and all of these super positive things that come out of sports. Camaraderie, respect, mutual respect, pushing yourself, as far as you can possibly go. And these are not small businesses. And so, what we often tell our investors is that we are an entertainment company that uses military-grade robotics to dominate our entertainment space. And so if you look at some of these, sports like Formula One, so that's the valuation. Formula One over the last 15 years has generated over $16 billion in revenue. So they make $250 million a year just on the ads, and the teams raise even more money for themselves. And so when you look at Formula One, what is Formula One? Well, it was after World War II. We had a bunch of airplane engines sitting on the tarmac. Some genius somewhere was like, wonder what happens if we put those airplane engines into a car and then race them. And so that became the formula. And there was Formula 1, 2, 3. And then so Formula 1 is what has lasted all of these years. And it's this idea of pushing forward technology and pushing forward R&D. And the beauty is that you get to write it off as a marketing expense. And we're doing the exact same thing for the future of manufacturing. And so that's one side of our business. But what's super unique about us is that we come from this sort of base foundation in science fiction. No other sport is really like this. So Star Wars is a great example. They've got robots. Video games, lots of video games have robots. And so what we're doing is we're actually combining these 2 worlds. So this really rich universe of storytelling machines that most sort of transmedia franchises like Star Wars and Transformers and Harry Potter and all of these, where it's not just about the movie, you have the video game, you have the TV show, you have the cartoons, you have the toys, you have the merchandise. So we have all of that stuff from Star Wars combined with all of the great stuff from Formula One. What's fascinating is that for our team, I'm actually the luckiest business development co-founder in Silicon Valley because I get to work with literally robot geniuses who can make people's dreams come true. So for us, the robots are actually the easy part. And so our team has worked on all of these robots. The robot that you see standing on the right, or your left, is Petman. So our CEO, Guy, worked on Petman. The one in the top center, also a Boston Dynamics robot, the LS3, was also worked on by Guy. He was the systems integrator for that. Other co-founder, Matt, was developing some advanced sort of R&D, digital hydraulic monitoring and pumps and whatnot for Eaton Corporation. We've partnered with IHMC. IHMC is a research group out of Florida. And they sort of provided the Atlas robot software for the DARPA Robotics Challenge teams. And actually, the robot that you see on the bottom right is a project called Stompy, which was also created right here in Boston, also by my co-founders, these two handsome gentlemen right here. This is from the challenge video against Japan. Just want to point out sort of the magic of what happens when you use entertainment to drive R&D. And when you use entertainment to sort of catalyze STEM education and people wanting to become engineers and wanting to push forward the technology. So we've released basically 6 minutes and 30 seconds of content on YouTube. And what that has gotten us is it got us 12 million views of that content on YouTube, which, in the day of, cat videos is not too much. But when you compare it to ratings on television, it's actually pretty freaking good. So the most important thing, though, like I mentioned, this number is a little bit low now. It's up to like 4,000 articles, including the one today, in every major language. And so people are fascinated by what we're doing, and they love talking about it. And because of this, we've been able to generate over $1 million in revenue doing advanced robotics. We are an advanced robotics company that has made over $1 million in revenue from selling T-shirts, from selling bumper stickers, from going to conferences and literally dressing up in American flag gear and signing autographs. We have a contract, actually, with vendors that require us to do that, and for us, it's great. we get kicks out of it. So, like I said, we're this combination of sports revenue, so you can imagine events, television, and sponsors, but then also combined with the entertainment revenue for like games, toys, and film. But what's so awesome about what we're doing is that it's a complete circle. These are not ancillary revenue streams. And I want to sort of walk you through an example that's going to hopefully blow your mind about what the future is going to look like. So, eSports. eSports is growing. This is 2013, the most watched events in sports. That's the BCS Championship, the NBA Finals, the Major League Baseball World Series. And on top of all of them are people going into arenas and watching other people play video games. That is where the future of sports is going. And so this is a shot from an eSports tournament. And this is literally what people do. I don't get it, but I'm sure your kids get it. So this is what it looks like. People cheer. People are going crazy for these gamers up on stage. And so these are like sort of the final 8 who have made it to the very end of this championship. So I want to sort of have you think about this thought experiment with me and what we can do with MegaBots. So this is something called Toys to Life Gaming. Nintendo's got one, Skylanders has one, Disney Infinity has one, and it's this idea where you have a physical object like a toy, and you put it on a platform and it goes into the game, and it allows the person to sort of unlock new levels or new characters inside the game. So imagine what happens when we introduce a MegaBots Toys to Life game. So that means people come to our live action sporting events, and instead of buying a t-shirt, they can buy a little toy. Maybe Autodesk or somebody like that is there 3D printing the toys at the arena. So you can only get that toy if you attend the event. And so what happens when they purchase these toys, they go into the video game, and then we can host an eSports tournament around the video game. This is an example of a 3D printed robot that we gave away on our Kickstarter campaign, just to sort of get you thinking about these little figurines and potential toys, right? So people are in the video game, they're playing the video game. We have an eSports tournament where we're able to have sponsors for the eSports tournament that are computer related. We're able to sell tickets, so we're making ticket revenue. We're able to promote it on television. It's streamed on TBS or wherever. And we're selling toys that tie back into the video game at the video game eSports tournament. And this is where this gets really crazy. And so most esports tournaments end with the 8 final sort of legends up on the stage battling it out in the game. So imagine what happens when at the very end of the esports tournament, we actually say, guess what? Your 8 robots that you designed in the video game are now going to get built, and you are going to become a reality television star, and instead of finishing the battle in the game, you're going to suit up in a real-life mech on national television, and you're going to need to get your parents to sign a waiver. How great is it if you are a kid and you are growing up knowing that there's some possible chance that you might be good enough in the game to be a real-life giant fighting robot pilot? How epically awesome is that? Then you can start to see all of these really awesome oblique angles of positive impact that can come out of something like this. So the same way that sports storytelling machines that are, reinforcing positive values like camaraderie and mutual respect, etc., self-mastery, the same things that are great about stories and making people imagine the future, making people become more interested in robots and engineering and math and STEAM education. And this is how what we're doing is all tied together in really crazy ways, unlike anything that's ever happened in the world before. It's not like a regular sport. It's not like a regular video game. It's not like a regular toy. It's all integrated into one awesome thing called MegaBots. So just want to sort of finish up by saying some of the amazing partnerships that we've been able to drive this early in our sort of trajectory. And I want to point these out because, again, until today, we were not a venture-backed company. We were completely bootstrapped. 3 dudes in a garage, convinced the world to give us money on Kickstarter, and we've slowly been plugging away. And what's so great about these sponsors is that these are world-class companies that have come to us and said, wow, this is amazing what you are doing. We want to be involved in this. So Parker, the number 2 hydraulics maker in the world, they're like, yep, anything you want, here's the catalog. We're going to start making you new stuff that's going to be useful for your robots. So we're like, okay. So hundreds of thousands of dollars of design and parts. Autodesk, one of our leading investors, one of our leading sponsors, have backed us since the very beginning. So we design everything on Autodesk, and Autodesk is like, you know what? You're building something so epic and awesome, we want to advertise that you're using our software to create it. So IHMC, I already mentioned. WME, the most powerful agency in Hollywood. No joke, I literally received a call from Ari Emanuel, the CEO of WME, like an hour before, a few minutes before lunch. And I was like, you realize we're already one of your clients, right? He's like, yeah, I knew that. NASA. So NASA is interested in doing STEM education outreach. So we're spinning up a Space Act agreement with NASA, which is an amazing thing. And so First Robotics, which NASA has always sort of sponsored, the same way that it's getting kids into STEM education, we're like the big leagues of First Robotics, getting the entire global youth world into robotics and STEM. HELAC Corporation, actuators, How Technologies make the world's fastest tank. They're like, yep, we want you to use the world's fastest tank treads on your robot. The founders of BattleBots, on the top right, who just brought their show back to ABC, which really crushed it in their time slot on Sundays. They're amazing advisors. Like Greg literally has been laying on the floor, dirty floor, taking team photos of us, like advisors of the year. We've got some amazing people like Mark Satrakian, who had the show on Sci-Fi Channel, the highest rated show in history on the Sci-Fi Channel, Robot Fighting League. Grant Imahara from Mythbusters, also a huge supporter. Carl Bass, the CEO of Autodesk. And so all of these people sort of coming together in order to push forward R&D, which is eventually going to make its way into giant machines that are doing underwater drilling operations, that are mining asteroids, that are going to Mars, that are helping to construct houses and office buildings while we're sleeping. And so a lot of the technology that's going to come out of this is going to be incredibly useful for the future of manufacturing. And so hopefully this gives you an idea of what the near future might look like. some of the things that some of the hobbies that your kids might have in the future. And yeah, happy to answer more and hopefully connect with you later. Thank you so much.